The At This Time podcast is back. Continuing Talent Bro Week. My good friend Ben Ochstein is here. Ben, how long have we known each other?
I would have thought 15 years. How long do you think?
That sounds about right. How many interviews do you think you've done in 15 years?
I mean, some weeks I think I've done 40, right? So you multiply that out, and we got some serious going on. I was thinking about the 15 years ago when I met you. Do you remember where I met you at?
I feel like it was at a KIP conference with talent recruiters, right? Is
Uh-huh.
that
Do
right?
you remember
Okay.
which city?
DC?
No. We
Chicago?
stayed up late into the evening.
You're in New
Our
Orleans.
training consultant was throwing dice at like 2 a.m.
You're in New Orleans.
We were in New Orleans. There you go.
Oh, that was a wild night. Yeah, you, me, McCarthy. Jack Carey, right? Was the guy?
Jack Harry was the one throwing dice. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you interview any differently 15 years later? Or do you, at its core, it's really about 90% the same as what we were doing back in the day?
Yeah, I wonder if I'm becoming more of a hiring nihilist after
Well,
15 years.
what is a hiring nihilist?
Well, I used to be like trying to figure out the perfect rubric that would give me indicative outcomes. And I spent many years trying to refine the rubric, and becoming a hiring nihilist. I've now kind of gone that the biggest thing you're ever going to get is a reference check. So when I do a good job, I start with a reference check, and the interview is more selling, setting expectations, and the reference is really giving me the biggest input of information. So the hiring nihilist means that the interview process may not be
That's
the number one tell. Yeah.
interesting. So then in the reference check, what are you asking? Are there two or three questions that you feel like always give you the best insight?
You ever read the book The Who?
Of course, yeah. We started.
Yeah. So the Who is like the one that says, you go through that standard process. What were you hired in your last job to do? What were the outcomes? What would your boss say about the success you had in that role? And I think when I follow that process, it becomes more clear on what they were asked to do and what they truly did in there.
Yeah, the A player idea has been helpful for me to distill down to, yeah, are you an A player? Were you an A player at the place you were before? Okay, you'll probably be one here. The
Yeah.
patterns, yeah, the patterns I really enjoy about that book. Well, so you
But that does stop you from getting like green talent that like
the
we're always really excited when we get that rookie that then like comes in sprinting and then can rise to the top. If you're only looking for past like significant success, you're missing out on some of that.
I laughed at the beginning that it's Talent Bro Week, and so the episode may be up already by the time this goes up. But I was talking to a former KIP colleague who works at Netflix, and so we were talking about how do you recruit? What's the difference when the resume stack is a million miles high because everyone wants to work for Netflix and Netflix? Have you ever worked in anything where you had too many resumes, or it's always been education scarcity? You're trying to convince people to do it.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. Like coming from when I started at recruiting at KIP, I thought all success was like who can I get externally to come in. So I totally preferenced
Mm-hmm.
people that I recruited to come in the door. And then when I hired Dave Bress and others, right, we started doing a better job of doing job boards and utilizing our website and getting more passive apps to come in. And when we got more passive apps, then we had a bigger resume stack, and we were not only selecting the cultivated candidates, but also that. And now at Scoot, we do get a good amount of applicants for all of our roles right now, and we do more assessment than we do. Like man, sometimes when I was at KIP, it was really trying to get people in the door to work there, and now we do more selection given our quantity of applicants.
Yeah, so talk to me about Scoot because I'm not sure a lot of people sort of realize it's a really big market trying to have qualified, awesome subs to go into schools, and all of us
Mhm.
were in schools as kids. We know that substitutes sometimes showed up and came in our door. What is that world like? How long have you been there? How do you find the subs that do great work in the schools?
Yeah, so like we started here, been in talent for 15 years. This is year 4 at Scoot, and it's been really interesting with the finding the right candidates. And so, first off, I've just learned a ton about advertising and the power of advertising. I told you I'd do this, but one of the things I remember me and you going into our advertising debut, and you showed me your teach then beach idea, and I was trying to do something similar where I was highlighting the bay in different ways, and we were making videos with professionals or on our own cameras to attract candidates. At Scoot, we have like a pretty unique value add where we're able to give people exposure to lots of schools, potentially their first time in education, and geography less particular than you might have in like your current recruitment cycle. And so when we go on to Indeed and have a big ad campaign that says like, have you ever wanted to become a teacher or, work with kids? I think that brings more people in and gives us more qualified candidates to select inside of versus the narrow pipe that I experienced when I was at KIP.
Hmm. So, like, if you were looking for a job somewhere else, would you pitch yourself as an expert on guessing on the potential of people because you are kind of catching folks probably new to a career of teaching or maybe emerging into the education field? Like, is that your
Yeah, my ninja skill is like I think I'm good at engaging with people, and I think I have strong relationships, which I'm proud of, and I think that I bring people in. I think there are probably better people at assessment of high quality candidates. I don't think that's my secret sauce, but I've been doing it a while, and I have a pretty darn good gut read. But I think some people have even better.
part of the reason I'm doing this podcast is at some point, hopefully, talking to more and more talent folks outside of education.
Yeah,
I never got any technical training on how to be a recruiter. I don't think you did either,
no,
really, right?
there was that one. Yeah, that one time in New Orleans. I think was the one training I attended.
How do you feel like relationships is the only way you've survived this long because you didn't get the technical skills, or have you backed into things that you feel like make you a really sound technical recruiter?
Yeah. Man, I like we're talking already. Like it's just been a growth mindset, my evolution already, and just as Jim Collins says, the start of your career, right, the beginning of it, it's really changed over time. So I would say by having that kind of growth mindset, it would allow anyone to become better in this, whether or not you're doing that. If you're willing to truly reflect, I know you and I have like done a lot of data reflections at the end of a hiring cycle, and now doing that 15 years allows you to go, that worked, this didn't work, and then fine tuning that comes over that time. So no, I don't think that an MBA or something like that would have been the thing for me, but I think having the right attitude, trying pretty much everything under the sun, and then admitting when it's working and when it's not working has been really important.
Do you have a lot of friends that ask you for job seeking advice?
Yeah, I think so. But I wonder if you feel the same way, where I think like luck is just a part of a lot of this. And I feel really lucky to have had the career that I'm in. And sometimes I'm noticing other people's more luck or less luck than a tip or a trick that they can use. So I would just say to anybody that's looking, keep on rolling the dice, as we I guess is our theme right now, and you'll eventually get lucky because that's evenly distributed amongst everyone.
What kind of tactical advice do you find yourself giving most frequently? Is it something like, let me show you how to update your LinkedIn page, or here's the resume
Yeah.
tricks that get clicks? Like, do you have that level of specificity, or it's more kind of luck and vibes and relationships?
Yeah, I mean, getting more technical, I do think a very clean LinkedIn page is really important. The first thing I do when somebody says, "Hey, talk to my friend," is I looked on their LinkedIn page. So just for anybody else that's out there in the job search, I would do that. I do get I would get references. So a tip I would have for everybody is have your last boss leave on amicable terms, because the number one thing we're going to do is reference check. So be a absolute professional through whatever process you're in. And then even when you have them write a reference for you on your LinkedIn page, that's a next step up for me, that you're endorsed by your previous manager or manager before then. Update your LinkedIn page, get references, and have them visible on your LinkedIn page, I think is really important.
I wonder if you and I have difference of opinions on the value of the reference. Because for me, I've always felt a little lukewarm about it. Because ultimately, unless I'm seeking out like a direct manager, and I know I'm talking to somebody who I don't feel like has been handpicked by the person to be a reference in such a way that I can't get any real info. That I feel like there's ways to kind of game it or soften the impact of what the reference is actually telling me. It sounds like you actually put a lot of stock in it. What's the you feel like I'm wrong? Am I off? Should I be putting more weight there?
I sure would. I think I agree with you. I'm not really interested in character references.
Mm.
Like, hopefully you got a friend that could say that you're a nice guy. But what I'm talking about is a manager. So during the interview process, if you're using like a very specific interview process where you're going through what achievements they were going to do, and if they achieve them or not, then you're able to follow up with that reference with a specific. Tell me about this. Like, how did they achieve that? What was the work? And they're like, that he never did that.
Yes.
And if you say that, well, then you're like, oh, that's an alarm bell. So it's not just a like, you like them, you don't like them, but it was like in the interview, they said they accomplished this. Can you tell me more about that? Right. And when you're getting deeper in the references and having them speak to the quality of their work, I think you get more the information you're looking for.
The person wasn't a landscape architect. He was just mowing my lawn or pulling weeds every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. Yeah, that makes sense. So interesting. How often do you update your own LinkedIn?
I'm happy. I was happy at KIPP. I would stay there for 15 years. I'm happy at Scoot right now. I haven't looked at it since I started here. But the piece of advice everybody always gives everyone is that like you should be ready and preparing for your next job while you're in your job. And I haven't heeded any of that advice. I'm comfortable and happy kind of with both the homes I found professionally.
Yeah. Hey, last thing, thinking about all the ups and downs now with school communities, whether it's political fallout from federal stuff or local stuff because of terrible weather and fires. Like, what trends or things are you following in the education space right now? Because you're so plugged into schools and school districts across more than just California, a bunch of different states.
Yeah. So first off, something I'm really excited about is I think there's finally some form of stabilization. And I wonder if you or anybody else wants to push back on me about that. But I've been really happy to hear. I think when I started here, there was post-pandemic kind of madness in the staffing realm. And I think everybody's settling in and coming up with solutions that are sustaining. And that makes me really happy that we helped people get through that period of time. And now we're finding more of a homeostasis of how in the calm to support our partners. And I've heard that kind of all over, NorCal, SoCal, Arizona, Nevada, and all over the states that there's more stabilization. So that's good. It doesn't mean that there's not crazy from everything else you described, but I would say overall on the massive theme, that's something that I've noticed. I have noticed excitement still around like pipeline programs. So like there's all the federal money for apprentices. And I think like we're learning still at schools how to do that. And so I don't think it's just education specific for those that are not in schools, but like how do you use apprenticeship like work to train the next cohort of people? I don't think in being in a grad school of education and away from schools is the way to do it. And so, at Scoot, we're really excited, like Teach Start's part of our future and the ways that we're doing that job embedded training there. And I would say that that's other people are figuring out their own solutions, whether it's Alder or other places, the relay work that's happening to get that done.
Yeah. Well, if folks want to throw their hat in the ring to be a sub, because I'm not sure we've inspired them to be talent recruiters. Maybe we have. They want to do that world. But if they want to work with you and be in Scoot, what do they have to do? Where do they find you?
Yeah. So you can go onto our website, Scoot Education, or you can go onto Indeed. It's probably the easiest place to find us. We have a really fast and efficient application intentionally, so you can get your foot in the door. And then we have a white glove like service where you'd be able to start talking with consultants once you submit your basic information to become a Scoot with Sub. And so we'd be able to walk you all the way through the process, whether you want to become a daily substitute teacher, you want to do the Teach Start Sub to Cert Teacher Pipeline program, or be a paraprofessional. We kind of have your whole gambit of options that you can come in and do.
You think we should do a New Orleans reunion at some point to celebrate our 15,
if you get
20?
Jack Harry and Ryan McCarthy, or sorry, I don't know if I should be
Maggie.
Yeah, if you got the right people in there, that would be the most fun occasions.
Nice. Well, another fun occasion is listening to all the At This Time podcasts. So make sure to check them out wherever you get your podcasts, audio-wise, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, all the places. And then, hey, Stunning 4K, Ben and I on YouTube. Check us out there too. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you soon.